Big day. That's it. Oh, you just give me a little pep talk, eh?
Teammates.
Little pep talk.
For the bands.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you gave me a pep talk.
Right,
Exactly.
right.
Pep talk.
Okay. We're on. Hello to everyone. Thank you.
Right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your attendance, and good evening to those who are watching the live stream meeting. Just a little bit of housekeeping. As usual, if you have got a mobile phone or device, could you please ensure that it's turned off or on to silent? Thank you. I'd ask Mr. Barry to do item 1, recording and live stream of council meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All council meetings are filmed with both the video and audio being recorded. Video is focused on a specific area of the room, from Councillor Pearce on my left through to Ms. Cook, Director of Corporate on my right. However, audio from the entire room is captured, so by speaking during question time or at any time, you consent to your voice and any comments you make being recorded. In common with all narrative during council meetings, verbal responses to congratulations, obituaries and question time will not be recorded in the written minutes. The reason behind recording council meetings is, of course, to hold us more accountable to our community and to improve transparency of our decision making. The full meeting is currently being streamed live on Council's YouTube channel, which is Alpine Shire Council, and will also be available on that YouTube channel shortly after this meeting. And always recognising that we were the first rural council in Victoria to commence live streaming. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Item 2, acknowledgement of traditional custodians and recognition of all people. Please stand.
The Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all.
Thank you. As most people will be aware, this is Mr. Barry's last meeting with the Alpine Shire Council, and so it is fitting that at this point I congratulate Dave on the extreme hard work that he's done for this council and certainly on behalf of all our ratepayers. For those that don't know, he is going to a larger position down in the city. Is that all right if I say where you're going?
Yeah, of course, Mr. Mayor. Yeah.
Yes, he's the Deputy Auditor General down in Melbourne, in Collins Street, where he's going to breathe all that beautiful fresh air, see all those beautiful buildings and concrete. I can't understand his decision at all. Particularly for those of us who live in such a beautiful part of the world. However, we all have to experience things in life, then they come back. Confirmation of minutes. Item 3.1, Ordinary Council Meeting M3, 4th of April 2017. Recommendation for the minutes of the Ordinary Council Meeting held on the 4th of April 2017 as circulated be confirmed. Councillor Nicholas. Yeah, Councillor Knapstein. All those in favour? Carried. Apologies. Councillor Forsyth is an apology for tonight. Obituaries and congratulations from my left. None? Zero.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to congratulate the new formation of the group in Mount Beauty who have taken on the Mount Beauty Music Festival. Congratulate them on taking the time and the energy to put that particular event back on the map.
Thank you. Councillor Roper?
Right.
Councillor Knapson?
I think on behalf of the Bright RSL, we'd certainly like to congratulate and thank the Shire and the contractors for having, apologise. On behalf of the Bright RSL, I'd like to congratulate the Shire and the contractors on having completed Mafeking Square in time for Anzac Day. The weather couldn't be controlled, but certainly the place functioned really, really well. So thank you.
And equally from Myrtlehead and I'm sure Mount Beauty, the amount of comments that we had from the public in relation to the readiness of those public spaces for Anzac Day was certainly commendable to our staff. So Mr Barrett and Mr Bird take the place that those...
We'll pass that on certainly, Mr Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Item 5. Declarations by councillors of conflict of interest. No.
Can't be away.
Item 7, public questions on agenda items. I have two questions on notice. One is not necessarily an agenda item, but it is to do with some roads, so I will accept that question. It is from Jane Sullivan. Question, can council advise what is the rating strategy across the Shire where houses are now renting rooms through Airbnb versus houses which are rented out fully as rental accommodation? Is council planning to change the rate strategy in the Shire for all businesses making money from their homes?
I can answer that, Mr Mayor.
Yeah, certainly, Mr. Barrett.
In response to Ms Sullivan's question, I'll briefly paraphrase our existing policy, but probably the best thing to do would be to look at the existing policy on the website. Going back a number of years ago, we didn't rate holiday rentals in response to what I believe was legitimate concern from motel operators and other operators. Council did revise its policy at that time to encompass any houses that are making revenue from their property where it is not their principal place of residence. And of course I'm paraphrasing an entire policy in a few lines there. So perhaps to correct Ms Sullivan's perception, there are the majority of properties that are on Airbnb stays and local rentals are already paying our commercial rate. Those properties that may lease out one room and are someone's commercial place of residence or are someone's principal place of residence are not currently subject to the commercial rate, and as council has done in the past, no doubt in response to changing markets, it will continue to revise that policy to ensure that it is as equitable as possible.
Thank you. I'll do the other one. Second question is from Malcolm McPherson. I think Mr McPherson is from the Dinner Plain area. On February the 28th, 2017, the CEO informed the Dinner Plain community in person that council intended to apply a common rating policy throughout the whole Shire. This was taken to mean that Dinner Plain would cease to be a separate business unit. The commercial rate would apply to all commercial properties, including holiday homes or investment properties that were available for rental. Over the Easter period, this decision became widely known amongst Dinner Plain ratepayers and has been generally accepted. Question 1. In light of the CEO's action, in brackets confirmed by the Director of Assets in March, why doesn't the agenda item 8.3.4, page 22 to 24, fully reflect the announced intention? And I'll read the second one because it probably one goes into the other. Question 2, if recommendation 2, page 22, is adopted by council, why can't the properties to which the Dinner Plain village rate should apply, in brackets, i.e. commercial, be identified before June 30th, 2017.
So, Mr. Mayor, I believe that the report as presented today is absolutely consistent with my remarks at that meeting, and the email are circulated by Mr. Bird. Broadly speaking, we indicated at that meeting that Council had an appetite to ensure that ratepayers at Dinner Plain were rated in the same manner and paid the same level of rates as ratepayers elsewhere in the Shire. And while Council recognised that that would mean a cross-subsidy from ratepayers elsewhere in the Shire to ratepayers at Dinner Plain, such cross-subsidies are not uncommon, in the same way as the ratepayers in the Ovens Valley cross-subsidise the ratepayers in the Kiewa Valley, and so on. So in terms of achieving that outcome, firstly, in that there is a special rate in place and we are subject to a rate capping regime, and the special rate is not a prescribed rate within the rate capping regime, we needed to maintain the special rate in place because otherwise it would have had an impact on all ratepayers. However, what we have done is aligned the special rate with the current commercial differential rate. So in other words, if you operate any type of commercial business, or back to the earlier question from Ms. Sullivan, any type of holiday rental house that is not your primary place of residence, you will pay the same rates in Dinner Plain as anywhere else in the Shire. So for all of those commercial ratepayers, we now have a system that is totally equitable. At that meeting also, I was pressed as to when Council would achieve its objective of moving the residential ratepayers down to 100% differential, the same as residential ratepayers here. And I believe, I'm looking to Mr. Bird here, but on 4 or 5 occasions, I said that we would need to do further work to determine if that was feasible, because otherwise, if Council made that decision now, it would be a reckless decision in the absence of that information. To do that work is a significant piece of work, and I'm happy to talk to Mr. McPherson, but it's not something that we could do. We could do it probably prior to 30 June, but not prior to the adoption of today's budget. So it is a significant piece of work that will take a number of months, and I'm happy to explain to Mr. McPherson why, because we need to assess broadly speaking, we need to assess every residence against the policy, write to those residents, give them a right of objection, etc., all of which takes time. So in short, if you are a commercial business, including holiday rentals at Dinner Plain, you will now pay the same rates as anywhere else in the Shire. If you're a residential property, of which we believe the vast majority are not residential, you will still be paying more rates than elsewhere in the Shire. However, lest anyone be discouraged, over the last 2 years, Council has reduced its rates from 80% differential at Dinner Plain to 65% last year, and if the motion tonight is adopted, to 43% this year. That means that had Council not made this decision, based on the current property valuations, residents at Dinner Plain would be paying 86% more special rates than they are now. So in other words, from going from the 80% differential to the 43%, that is a change. That means that ratepayers would otherwise have been paying 86% more rates. And indeed, if we go back to 2010 and apply the same calculation, ratepayers would be paying almost double the special rate now as they were back then had Council not made these changes. So hopefully that answers Mr. McPherson's question, but also serves as some encouragement that over 2 years Council has consistently reduced the rates at Dinner Plain. For the vast majority of ratepayers, they are now aligned with the rest of the Shire, and that absolutely everything that is in the motion tonight is consistent with my words at that meeting and Mr. Bird's email, if anyone cares to go back to read those minutes or to read the email in more detail.
Thank you, Mr. Barry, for that comprehensive answer. I'll now take questions from the floor, 2 questions per person. Do I have anybody that has a question? Mr. Torcazo first, please. Yes, if you could come forward, please, Mr. Torcazo. Just, it's for our record keeping, if you could just state who you are and where you're from, please.
Yeah, so my name's John Torcaso and I'm from 92 Tunnyattu Lane in Myrtleford.
And your question, sir?
Yeah, my first question is, it's in regards to agenda item 8.3.5. And what I'd like to ask is, why did the Alpine Shire grant the original planning permit in 2010 after an Alpine Shire rep visited the site and saw that extensive landfill had been performed without a permit? And then the Alpine Shire received a letter from the landowners stating they moved 4,000 cubic square metres without a permit.
Thank you. Do we have someone? You can answer that, Mr. Barry.
So, Mr. Torcaso, that's a bit of a question from left field, and you're asking me in a few sentences to talk about something that happened 7 years ago that none of us were involved with. I think we've had several meetings, and I would need to dig out the planning report to get you the answer to that question. However, my gut feeling is that we granted a permit to try and remedy the circumstance that had happened, which is the same reason as we're proposing to grant a permit tonight. However, I think, and I've freely said to you, that we granted that permit in a matter that is far less prescriptive and detailed than the permit that we're proposing to grant tonight, and I think we could have done a far more prescriptive job at that point in time.
Yeah, we have asked this question in the past without no return answer. The second question I have is, why wasn't there an investigation and levels taken before any works were to be permitted? So that does follow on from the first question. So,
sorry, Mr. Can you give me a bit more detail? Why weren't any? When?
So just basically, like my first question stated, there was landfill performed without a permit. An Alpine Shire representative visited the site. The landowners provided a letter stating what they'd done. So why wasn't there an investigation at that point before any permit was granted?
So again, I feel like you're asking me to defend decisions of people in the past that I'm not absolutely of a mind to defend because I don't know the detail of the circumstance. I do know that there was LiDAR data available in late 2010, so therefore I assumed that the officers relied on that. But I feel like you're asking me to retrospectively justify decisions in the past when I will freely admit that this organisation is a much more thorough organisation now than it is then. And as if I can be as frank as possible, I feel like we have dedicated a lot of time to this matter, which is no doubt immensely important to you, and of course it is to us. However, it is always challenging to go back and look at what happened 10, 20 and 30 years ago, as sometimes people like us to do. So what we have tried to do is work with you to remedy the situation now and into the future. And otherwise, we have always got to apply our energies to as many ratepayers as possible in as meritorious a way as possible. And much and all as we would love to go back and look at every single element from the past, it's not always as straightforward as that. And frankly, the answer isn't always there. So I can only hazard a guess that they looked at that point in time, said it's 2010, there's LiDAR data available, let's use that LiDAR data.
So can we get answers to these questions in the near present?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm being very frank, I don't know that we will ever give you an answer that you'll be satisfied with. However, we can endeavour to give the best answer possible.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'd just like to state that in regards to this agenda item 8.3.5, we disagree with the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Torcaso. Are there further questions from the floor? Mr. Dyer?
Mine's Ray Dyer, Ovens, for the people that don't know me. My first question is to the CEO. November or December of 2015, at question time, I spoke about the toilet block near the slide at Centenary Park. The rotary slide was leaking water. The urinal there. I've just been there, it's still leaking water. It's been leaking water all that time.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer. I think we've
You
covered.
dealt with the toilet many
We-
times,
we've-
but you
we've-
have not been accountable for that.
I understand that there has been works done on those toilets and leaks have been fixed. I was in those toilets just the other day. I saw no leak.
Well, I was just in there, Mr. Mayor, and it was leaking.
I wasn't having it, I just didn't see one.
Mr.
My
Mayor,
second
I
question.
can also just vouch for you that I am a frequenter of those toilets.
Yes.
And I too have inspected the leaking urinal, and so perhaps it has just re-emerged as a leak, but it's certainly I've been there probably a few times in the last few months, and I've certainly paid a lot of close attention to it. So I assure you, Mr. Dyer, it's a high priority matter for us at Council, and no doubt the future CEO will continue to pay attention to leaking taps and urinals across the Shire, as hopefully we have.
Right, my second question, it leads into my second question. Why doesn't Council have matters arising from previous minutes? I've spoken about before, I haven't got a straight answer.
Can I answer you, Mr. Mayor? Mr. Dyer, I must admit, I'll miss you asking the same question, but I'll unfortunately have to give you the same answer as I have when you previously raised this. What I appreciate that some of the community groups that you're involved with, the CFA and the likes, do have matters arising. That is not something that is generally provided for in municipal council agendas. So it's because of the procedural requirements of the Local Government Act and also our local laws, matters arising would constitute matters from the floor, which cannot be raised because they have to be raised in accordance with our local law. So in other words, what I'm saying is it is not, from a good governance viewpoint, something that is allowable.
Indigo Shire, I've been doing it for years, same as the rural city of Wangaratta.
Thank you, Mr. Dyer. This is the Alpine Shire, and these are the
Yeah.
rules that we
Thank
operate
you very
under.
much.
Thank you, sir. Are there further questions from the floor? Please.
Hello, Kitty Vigo from the Upper Kingwa Valley Community Association. I'm asking a question probably revealing my own interest, but I've only just started paying the rates myself since my dear departed husband died, and now a much more critical reader of everything. And I'm wanting to ask a question about the waste disposal and the contract that you're about to award. And now one question really does reveal my ignorance, but never mind. Is the waste cost a separate item on the rates notice, or is it part of the extant rates we pay, or the current rates we pay plus 1.9% you're proposing?
So your average rates notice has a number of components. The first is your residential rate, which is your capital improved value multiplied by the rate in the dollar. The second component is normally a charge for both a general waste 80 litre bin and a 240 or 360 litre recycling bin. So there are two further charges. And then there's a fourth charge which goes towards landfill rehabilitation. So unfortunately, in times gone by, our landfills, of which there are several, were not suitably rehabilitated, and we now need to gather money from existing ratepayers to pay for that inadequate rehabilitation in the past.
Right, thank you. Well, the second question, I noticed that you were noting that there would be costs in the region of about 700,000 plus in the first year, and that the contract is for 7 years. What kind of increase in cost do you anticipate over the subsequent 6 years?
So the contractual increases are multifaceted. So normally in any contract escalation clause, it's a factor of things like CPI, Consumer Price Index, the Wage Price Index, and particularly relating to the Consumer Price Index, the components that relate to waste collections such as the fuel index of the consumer price index. I believe there's 11 or 14 components to the consumer price index. So there's a formula effectively in the contract that tells us how future increases are calculated.
But can you anticipate what that might be, the total percentage?
In the order of, it'll definitely be in the range of 2 to 4%, depending on how the economy goes.
Okay, so that might put pace my skiing holiday. Thank you.
Did it didn't?
Didn't answer my question.
Okay.
Can I ask you to come back up?
Yeah?
Mr. Igo, could you come back up to the lectern, please? Just Councillor Keeble wants to ask you something.
Can I just clarify your question, Kitty? Were you asking whether this new contract will increase or decrease the waste fees on your rates?
Effectively that, yes, because
So-
there's an implied increase in cost of the council. So
Okay.
if you, if then the ratepayer has to pick up that cost as part of our waste recycling cost, well, that implies that we'd be paying more every year in the order of 2 to 4%.
Yeah.
So, do you want to
So
answer that?
that's how I've answered it, yeah?
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Are you saying, and then in the first year, now the contract has come in, there is some likelihood that that cost in the actual adopted budget as opposed to the in-principle budget going out tonight may actually reduce. I need to run those figures.
Right.
So what I'm anticipating is a figure in the adopted budget equal to or less than what is currently in the draft tonight, and then that would increase between 2 and 4% over future years, assuming that the economy doesn't start to, have very high inflation and the likes, which we're not projecting.
Because I think a lot of people I've spoken to had the same misperception that when you pay the rates it covered everything. Clearly it doesn't, because there are different components in the
Exactly.
rates. So, yes. So when you say the rates will go up by 1.9%, that's just the household rate,
Exactly.
effectively. But there might be a 2 to 4% increase.
There could be.
Yes, okay.
There could be.
So to
And
clarify
can I also, just by way of background, and excuse me for going on about this, Mr. Mayor, we've had the lowest rate increase in our history for 3 years in a row. It's likely this year, for the second year in a row, we'll have the lowest rate increase in the state. And by way of background for you, across a number of fees, we have actually reduced them successively year in, year out. So, for example, seasonal pool passes to the Mount Beauty pool went from $300 a few years ago to $99 to $89, and now $85, I believe we're at. So we're not all about increasing fees, and certainly, as you probably know, through our restructuring of our organisation, we saved $8 million off about a $17 million cost, which again means that generally our fees are decreasing. So we're not here to try and charge anything more than what it costs.
Well, can I just ask one more question? Because I was fascinated when I did look at the rates notice that the value of my house has been increased. I thought, well, that's funny, because I don't think I would get that money if I sold it. So a 1.9% increase in a probably 5% increase in value of the holiday, the value of the house, represents in fact a higher relative increase in rates.
No, I'd need to go through this calculation with you, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but you're charging a percentage based on the house value.
Yeah, but the rate in the dollar goes down as the house value goes up.
Right.
Because what happens is we're rate capped. So if everyone's house goes up by 10%, the rate in the dollar goes down by 10%. So I'd need to go through this in more detail. But I can assure you that when we talk about 1.9%, the average house rates go up by 1.9% regardless of what happens to your property value. The average. Of course, there are always exceptions. Some might, if your house goes up more in value and your neighbour's goes down, true, the balance gets shifted. But across the board, increases in valuations do not result in increases in rate revenue, which is one of our big bugbears, why we probably wish there was never revaluations, because people believe that revaluations lead to additional revenue. They don't.
I wish I'd passed third grade arithmetic, but thank you for your answer.
Thank you very much, Kitty. Being no further questions from the floor, we'll move on.
Very good. Yeah, just a bit of
You're in the soapbox the last time.
We're allowing the CEO a little bit ahead to this procedure.
Yeah.
Point 1.2, appointment of Charlie Bird to
1.1.
I move 8.11.
I've got a,
Oh, that's like
oh,
hang on.
sorry, I missed that page. Yes, sorry, 8.1.1, contracts approved by the CEO. That the contracts approved, as you see on the screen there, be noted by the CEO. By the CEO, be noted. Get it right. Councillor Pearce.
A second.
Second. Councillor Nicholas, thank you. All those in favour? It's carried. Now we'll get on this one. 8.1.2, appointment by Charlie Bird to acting executive officer
So moved.
position. Councillor Roper. Councillor Pearce. Councillor Roper.
No, congratulations, Mr. Bird.
Councillor Pearce.
I concur with the congratulations to Director Bird and look forward to working with you as the acting CEO in the next 6 to 12 months.
I think it might be necessary to ask Mr. Bird if you'd actually like the position.
Say no.
You got it from me anyway.
Yes, thank you, Ron. Hi, Mr. Mayor.
You're right.
Is there further comment? Councillor Keeble.
I see that Charlie Bird's taking up the position from the 22nd of May and that incumbent is moving on the 19th of May. Just technically, who's in charge on that weekend if things happen?
Me.
The mayor's in charge?
So I'll work that out with the mayor, but likely my effective resignation date won't be until the middle of the following week, although I won't be in the office.
No problem. Thank you. Just to clarify.
We take a vote on that. Yes, all those in favour? Carried.
Thanks, Charlie. Is your heart rate?
We'll have a conversation later, Mr. Bird. 8.2.1, review of road management plan, Mr. Bird.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the revised road management plan to Council and to seek endorsement for it to be placed on a public exhibition.
So moved.
Is it Councillor Roper?
Second.
Councillor Pearce? Councillor Roper?
Looking forward to getting public feedback on the plan, Mr. Bird.
Councillor Pearce? Nothing, any further comment? None? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Eight 8.3.1, Audit Committee meeting, 24th of March 2017. Ms Cook.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The purpose of this report is to present the minutes of the meeting of the Audit Committee, which was held on the 24th of March 2017. Recommendations include presenting the minutes and they are received and noted, that an amended Audit Committee charter from 2017 is also adopted and signed and sealed at the appropriate stage of this agenda, and that the confidential year-to-date 28th of February 2017 Health and Safety report is adopted.
Councillor Pearce, Councillor Nicholas, Councillor Pearce,
Pretty straightforward, what's there?
Councillor Nicholas.
I'd like to just draw attention to the strategic risk review, which is covered in item 5.2, and that all the actions have been completed from the last review. So the Alpine Shire Council Executive Team has been asked to proceed with the new one to be sure that all, including new risks, are identified and managed into the future. Strategic risks.
Thank you. Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. Eight 8.3.2 quarterly report, council plan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This report provides a second quarterly report against the Alpine Shire Council Plan for 2013 and to 17 as was reviewed in 2016. The recommendation is that the Alpine Shire Council Plan quarterly report, which ends on 31st of March 2017, is received and noted.
Councillor Keeble, Councillor Roper, Councillor Keeble.
It's while this report does take a fair bit of officers' time to produce, it is great to see that at the end of the last 4 years this term with this particular plan that we have met a lot of our ideals, our desires, what we wanted to see planned out. So it's been good in that way to keep track. I'm not sure that we're going to need to have a quarter one going forward, maybe half a year, a whole year, but we should look at that, I think.
Okay, Councillor Roper.
If anyone wants to know what the council's been up to in this previous quarter, this is a document to look at. Shows you what's been going on. But I concur with my learned friend at the other end of the bench that he just does take up. We need to find a better way of presenting this information.
Any further comment? All those in favour? Carried. 8.3.3 draft annual budget 2017-18. Yeah, Mr. Barry can talk to that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try and be a little bit more brief, but this is the last opportunity I might get to do this for a while, so I might miss it, you know.
We'll just get comfortable.
You'll just I need to grin and bear it. So look, annual budget time always a really, I'm going to use the... Look, I won't say exciting is probably the word that springs to mind for me, where really you get to see the truth of the fruits of how the organisation is going. And I will be brief. We are this year again having a rate increase below the rate cap for the second year in a row. Again, we project for the second year in a row that we will be the lowest rate increase in the state, and likewise across our fees and charges. Third successive year of lowest rate increases for this council. We're 100% debt free. Employee costs will reduce further, and we have a projected budget there of 8.7 million versus last year's budget. And really, I guess the question is always where the savings go, because savings are just quite a brutal thing in their own right, and why would you seek to make savings other than return it to your communities? So as you can see again, for the third year in a row, we have a very major capital works budget. And building on the back of the projects in the Kiwa Valley, in recent years we will start to deliver more projects across the Ovens Valley. The first of those, as we know, has recently been delivered, which is Mafeking Square. But we'll start to get into the significant delivery following on from our Hero Trail construction of the further stages of the Alpine Events Park. If we move to Porponka, we'll conclude our Alpine Better Places streetscaping project in Porponka, again a project in the order of $1.7 million. Moving on to Merdford, some significant works this year, the commencement of the Alpine Better Places project down in Merdford, which is projects in the order of a total project value in the order of 3 million. The Merdford Indoor Sports Centre, again, some preliminary works associated with that commencing this year, which is a $2.6 million project. And the list goes on. So I guess what you're seeing is successively year in, year out, we are now starting to deliver the projects that we say we're going to deliver, which is why last year we delivered 99% of our capital works projects, up from a long-term average of about 50%. So I guess in summary, I think councillors have all had an opportunity to read the budget in detail. I hope it's very encouraging from a cost viewpoint and from a delivery viewpoint, and I hope it shows how this council's strong leadership and direction to me has resulted in a council that's in a very strong financial position, but that is also not slashing services and projects in response to rate capping, that is actually reforming its organisation, its business, and how we go about things in response to rate capping, so we continue to deliver more with less. And in my mind, that's a credit to the great councillors that I've worked with over the last number of years. So the budget is presented at item 8.3.3. course, this budget will be placed on public exhibition as an in-principle budget and re-presented to Council with any submissions received on the 27th of June for adoption. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Keeble.
Second.
Councillor Pearce. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Thanks to our CEO for that explanation. It was one of your more quicker explanations of the budget papers, I noted. No, thank you very much for all your hard work too and the leadership to get us to where we are as a team. We have done that. I do urge, this is a public document that will go out after tonight, and I do urge the ratepayers, our residents out there, to have a look at the document. Be out for 30 days. If there's things in there you're not happy with or you are happy with, provide some feedback. If there's things that aren't in there that you'd like to see in there, please make sure you put in your submission. There is an avenue for you to do that, and I would encourage you to do that. It is great. I'm not sure it's the lowest. I did hear on the radio today that there is a Shire going at 1.8%.
We can
so I am making it. No, I'm not making an amendment. But 1.9, you know, we're doing well to be able to continue to deliver what we deliver with the different structures that we've put in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Keeble. Councillor Pearce.
Just quickly, Dave mentioned it, about our third lowest in the state, which has been amended now, and all the money was spent at Mafking, Port Bunker, Mount Beauty, and soon we're going down to Myrtleford. Well done, Dave.
Yeah. Any further comment, Councillor Nicholas?
I'd just like to talk about my impressions of the budget. It's my first local government budget. Been really impressed with the process, very impressed with the inclusion of councillors during that process, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of the submission. Time we've got ahead of us. And I was also very impressed at the strong financial position that I found council in when I became aware of the budget when I first was elected. And in terms of the budget too, I think I commend the people who've worked very hard on it to get the 4 out years as accurate as they can through forward thinking. It's far more than a guesstimate. It's actually based on really what we think that local government up on Shire will be able to achieve.
Okay. Further comment? No? Councillor Keeble? No. Take to the vote. All those in favour? It's carried. (8.3.4) Dinner Plain Village rate. Public notice of proposed declaration. Natalie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is the proposed declaration of a special rate for Dinner Plain Village for 2017 to 18. The council may declare a special rate for purposes of defraying expenses when the performance of a function is of special benefit to the persons required to pay the special rate. This declaration of a special rate is a requirement of the Local Government Act 1989 at section 163. The declared special rate for dinner plate services for 2016 and 17 was reduced to 65% from 80% in 2015-16. It is now proposed to declare a 2017-18 special rate at 43%. This would align the proposed dinner plane village rate 2017-18 with the Shire-wide commercial industrial rate. There has been some discussion on this already this evening. However, it's worth pointing out again that within the 2017-18 rating period, Council undertakes to take financial assessment of further reducing the dinner plane village rate for 18-19 to apply potentially to commercial properties, including holiday homes only within dinner plane village. This assessment would include a detailed analysis of both the projected income and expenditure and document the potential income deficit achieved once the dinner plane reserve is exhausted. This analysis will further allow councillors to make informed decision on a future strategy to defray these expenses. It is also worth pointing out the financial and resource implications of this report. The council has undertaken analysis that demonstrates that expenditure will exceed income through the special rate within the 10-year period of the long-term financial plan. This deficit would be covered by the dinner plane reserve in the short term. Of course, consultation processes apply to this declaration, this proposed declaration. Under Section 223 of the Local Government Act, a person has a right to make submissions of proposed dinner plane village rate 2017-18, and we must allow a minimum of 28 days after the public notice to receive submissions on this.
Great. I'd like to make an amendment to the recommendation, if I may. In number 1, there at the bottom there, the last sentence that we put in brackets after rate, so before which, I think there's a bit of grammar there which aligns with the Shire-wide commercial industry differential rate, and after that rate also have enclosed brackets. That would make that sentence grammatically correct. Thank you. If that's okay.
I think are you moving? You're moving the motion as amended.
As amended.
Seconded.
Councillor Roper, Councillor Keeble and Councillor Roper. Councillor Keeble.
Thanks to Natalie for that explanation. I think this is a good outcome. There is the special rate going down to the 43% from where it has been. The money is still will be with that within dinner plane, and I commend ourselves from having that conversation and getting to that stage.
Thank you, Councillor Roper.
Well, rates and dinner plane is always a contentious issue. Council is endeavouring to make some change in that area.
Thank you. Other councillors comment? None? Mr. Barry, you want to comment?
Just a small one, Mr. Mayor. Again, just to emphasise the figures we'll raise through the special rate if this motion is carried, approximately 300,000. And had council not adjusted the rate downwards 2 years ago, you'd be raising in the order of 550,000. And then against the backdrop of a decrease in CIV, had that not happened, you would be raising 830,000. So the key figures there, 300, 550, 830. So whichever figures you pick represents a very significant reduction.
Thank you. Take to the vote. All those in favour? Thank you. It's carried.
What's going on?
Hang on.
Catch furball or something.
8.3.5 planning application 5.2010.125.4. Do we have an officer? Decorate Corporate, Natalie.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This at 8.3.5 is a planning application under application number 52010.125.4. The recommendation on this planning application, of which there are many annexes to this application as well, is that council issues a notice of decision to grant an amended planning permit for buildings and works for replacement of an existing dwelling, outbuilding, swimming pool and associated pump storeroom, entry statement fencing, concrete driveway, retaining wall and associated earthworks at 72 Tony Outside Lane, Myrtleford, in accordance with the conditions outlined in Appendix A and the submitted plans shown in Attachment 1 of this report.
So moved.
Councillor Keeble. Councillor Nicholas. Councillor Keeble.
I take the questions that we had earlier tonight. Thank you for those questions. I take note on those and your final statement. I think, I don't know what the vote will be tonight, so we're going to vote in a minute. Whatever happens, we'll see what happens. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Councillor Nicholas.
Echo Tony's comments. Thank you. Councillor Keeble's comments. Thank you for coming in. What we've got in front of us is a compromise for both the applicant and the objector. And again, we'll need to see how the vote goes, but I think we've been trying hard to find a way through.
Thank you. Any further comment before we go to the vote? We'll take it to the vote. Recommendation as is seen on the screen up there in front of you, councillors. All those in favour of the recommendation? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Against? 1 against. Motion is carried. Yeah. 8.3.6. A report contract curbside waste collection, acceptance and sorting of commingled recyclables. Move, Ms. Cook? Moved already. Okay. Councillor Nicholas?
I'll second it.
Councillor Pearce, Councillor Nicholas?
Oh, sorry. Again, there's been a lot of hard work put into this, trying to work out who's going to collect our refuse and manage it, and we have come up with options that look good for the next, well, the duration of the contract, the next 7 years, despite the 2 to 4% increase.
Thank you. Councillor Pearce?
Yeah, I agree with Sarah there. Last Tuesday we spoke about it, and we were promised to know by the end of the week. 10 to 5 on the Friday, it was all finalised, and they've done a terrific job of getting a good deal. Well done.
Thank you. Councillor Peeble?
Kitty raised the point before about waste in the Shire. Asked some questions. Picking up waste is a major cost to our residents and to our ratepayers, and it's pleasing to know that this particular contract, which Ms Cook has worked on with other council officers over a long period of time, is better value than what of our previous contract, I believe. And so that's a great outcome for our ratepayers for the next 7 years of the life of this contract.
Thank you. Any further comment?
Yes.
Councillor Roper?
Just to give us a ballpark figure, please, Ms Cook, as to how many officer hours went into this, because I think a lot of people get the perception that things just, but there has been a lot of analysed data.
There'd be hundreds of hours that went into this, hundreds, yeah.
Yeah. So I think everyone needs to get a grip, a feel for that, and it's apart from just now going to paper, you've got to also slice it and dice it and see how it looks.
Thank you. Mr. Berry?
Just briefly, I was going to say, and taken in conjunction, of course, with the tender that Council awarded at last month's meeting for the transshipment of waste from Mertford to Patho. To put it into scale, that's $137 a tonne, and this contract's probably $200 a tonne. So when you think it's costing you in the order of $350 to move every tonne of waste from your house elsewhere, you see what big business waste is, because there's not much that you'd buy for $350 a tonne and bring it in. So the end product to get rid of is certainly a lot more expensive than the product that you bring in. And we put a huge amount of time and energy into analysing our waste tenders, as I think councillors are well aware.
Thank you. Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item 9, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Pearce. Councillor Keeble. Yeah. All those in favour? No discussion on this. Item 10, general business from my left. Councillor Pearce.
General business, seeing it's my last meeting with him, I'd like just to say thanks to Dave. I'll keep it short. He's been fantastic to work with over his period of time, and he's been a fantastic CEO. He's rocked this joint. Well done, Dave.
Thanks.
Okay, Councillor Nicholas.
I'd echo that. Again, as a new councillor, Dave's been a great mentor and really helped me see what's important.
Okay, Councillor People.
I'll get to Dave. My comment will be that I've met with some people in the Bride area with the Mystic Lane in regards to a lot of movements in that area over the previous months with some very busy weekends and events, and I would like to see that our Shire Council officers do spend the time working with the group of residents there on informing them of the future plans in that area, and I'm sure that they'll be getting some notes soon from all that. Secondly, I would like to thank Dave. It's been fantastic having him around. I'm not sure he'd say the same for us, but no, it has been a great relationship. All the best with your job, and feel free to drop in, and we'll do likewise.
Councillor Knapstein.
I'd just like to commend Dave on his patience and on his humour. Two qualities that have been really, really evident and obviously needed, but thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Roper, because I know I left you last because I know you left some pearls.
Nothing from me, Ron.
I'll be first.
Oh no, it has been. We had my time at council has been 2 CEOs. It has been interesting. My time on council. I've particularly enjoyed working with Dave recently, and I'm proud of the change we've been able to effect as a council while I've had Dave sitting in the CEO's chair. And I'm also very proud of the way the fellow councillors have worked to work with the CEO to achieve the things we have done and to achieve some of the lowest rate rises in the state in the past. Mind you, we are coming from a pretty rubbish sort of base. We've done exceedingly well, and especially at one point I thought we were just about bankrupt, and wasn't quite sure how we were going to manage our way through. We're in a very good position now. So thank you very much, Dave, and good luck for the future.
Thank you, and as the Mayor, it's been an absolute pleasure to work with Dave, and he has taught us all a lot about figures and graphs. I just can go on and on about some of these things, but we all learned something, and I hope he's learned something from us.
Yep.
Yes, you have. You don't have a right to reply just here at the moment. So all my fellow councillors have said what I think they needed to say, and I suppose just at the conclusion of the meeting, there's a little bit of a meet and greet with Dave at the end. Light refreshments down there. Note there's no alcohol. They're just a bit of orange juice and apple juice. So please feel free to stay behind and indulge yourself in something that Shire has spent a lot of money on down there in the court. That's why we've got lower rates. Moving on, motions for which notice has been previously given, there are nil. Reception and reading of petitions, there are nil. Documents for sealing, the recommendation the following documents be signed and sealed. Move in a seconder, please. Councillor Nicholas and Councillor Knapstein. And before I formally close this meeting, I have said to the CEO, soon departing, that he has a right of reply.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, councillors, for all your kind words. I won't bang on about the usual stuff that I'd go on about, lower rate increases and whatever else. But look, I would like to sincerely thank each and every one of you for your, I guess, cohesive and strong leaderships. I recently presented at a seminar where I said to a bunch of councillors, you guys run the council, and they all said, sort of. Well, I think certainly one of the things I've really enjoyed with this council has been the immensely strong and cohesive leadership where councillors have made tough and decisive decisions and told me what to do as it should be. Look, thank you all for your individual support as well. I guess as councillors and oftentimes as quasi-parents to me as well, advising me on different things along the way. So that's very, very appreciated, down to, you know, hospitality at Ron's house and elsewhere. And in particular, thanks to Peter for, I guess, hiring me, and the councillors at the time for settling me in. To Jan, of course, as a former mayor, and to Ron now for 2 terms as mayor. It's been an absolute pleasure to have such strong and open working relationships with people. I never want to move on from anywhere I work at. I always just feel that somehow I get dragged on to work somewhere else just through the ebbs and flows of life. As people know, I'm immensely proud, passionate. I love this area. I want to come back here and be CEO, as everyone knows. I would have chewed my right arm off to come back and be CEO here. I will miss the area dearly. But as always, there seems to be something new that crops up, and you make these silly decisions rather than just to, you know, take life easy for a while to pursue something new. And I guess one of the things that makes me most comfortable in moving forward, I think any CEO can kind of, you know, run an organisation in a strong way and get good outcomes. I don't think that's a very, very hard job. But the thing that I'm most proud of, apart from the strong working relationships with council, is the incredible workforce we have here. And I don't want to do too much chest beating, because like every organisation, we always have a way to go. But my God, we've got a fantastic we've got a fantastic workforce that, you know, are committed, customer focused, passionate. They love working together. We're working towards a shared vision. So you know, really, there's nothing that makes you more comfortable in moving on than knowing that there are people that you work with every day that are significantly more capable and better than you. It's one of the most fantastic things that I enjoy about coming into work, is seeing people that once, I guess, I felt I could do a better job than them, that eventually they come to do a better job than you. And that's one of the most really, really fantastic things about working in any environment, and where you know you can come to work and you can sit in your office and do nothing and the place would still go well. So thank you to everyone, to the councillors and to the staff, and I wish you all well for the future.
Thank you, Dave. That's the conclusion. There's no other business for the meeting. The meeting will close at 8:01 or 8:02. 8:08, whatever it is. Thank you for those attending. Safe journey home, and once again, you're welcome to stay and have a bit of a chat if you wish. Thank you. Good night.